Okay. Welcome to the special meeting today. We'll start with the budget. We'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's do roll call. Director Armstrong.
Here.
Director Kwiatkowski.
Here.
Director Mora.
Present.
Quorum with Director Swan and Attorney F.
Okay. Quorum.
We'd certainly like to move to improve the order.
I will move to approve the order of agenda. I'll second motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Director Mora and then by Director Kwiatkowski. Call for the vote. In favor?
Aye.
Oh. Okay. All right. So, anybody online? Yes. Okay, for first item. All right. So, public comment. Members of the public are appreciated for taking the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters of district business. Public comments are subject to a 3-minute time limit, 10 minutes on an individual topic. Although no action can be taken on items not listed on the agenda, please know that we are listening carefully to your comments. Okay. So, to move to discussion items. This one is a presentation of Foster and Foster actuaries and consultants of the Groveland Community Service District GASB 75 disclosure information report for post-employment medical benefit plan.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and start it off. And Foster and Foster actuaries and consultants completed a full actuarial valuation of the district's post-employment medical benefit plan. This was in May of this year, as required under governmental accounting standards. The presentation today is going to provide an overview of the valuation results, the assumptions, and the district's reporting obligations. So at this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Carlos Diaz of Foster and Foster Actuaries and Consultants to present the report. Answer any questions that the board has. Welcome.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure my bandwidth is great.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Yes, I'd like to just begin by thanking you for having me. I really enjoy being able to present our valuations, and it really shows that the district cares about the obligation, and we're always willing to work with you closely to meet any of your budgetary or any of your needs, especially answering your questions. I do want to kind of just clarify that this report that the work that we do relates to the district's offering continued medical coverage to retirees, that we're not referring to any medical coverage to active employees. This is because the district is generously providing post-retirement continued coverage under the medical plan. As Michelle mentioned, that these benefits fall under GASB accounting standards number 75. So we're going to refer to our reports as GASB 75 related reports. Is everyone hearing me okay? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So what we did was we provided you with 2 reports, and I want to clarify why. One is that under GASB 75, a full valuation is required every 2 years. And so the first report is the results of the full valuation, and my presentation is going to be mainly geared toward that report because it shows the details of our calculations. The second report is And let me just clarify, this is as of June 30th, 2025. Prior to that, the most recent full valuation was as of June 30th, 2023. So this is to meet the 2-year requirement. Under GASB 75, in the interim years, we're allowed to use a projection from the valuation report. So next year, what we'll provide the district is a copy of the supplemental schedules that you also see, but those will be for the June 30th, 2027 financial reporting. So the other report that we provided you was the supplemental schedules for June 30th, 2026, which you can use to prepare your financial statements with the information that is necessary. So we're providing with 2 reports, and my presentation is going to focus mainly on the full valuation report. When we prepare a full valuation, we begin by just understanding the plan provisions, understanding the benefits that are promised, and those we've summarized on page 17 of the report. The plan provides continued service based on eligibility is based on dates of hire, and for individuals that are hired after July 1st, 2016 are not eligible. So we do have a population, an active population that is slowly declining because it's a frozen plan. What we do for a full valuation is understanding the plan provisions. Then we gather census information. That is currently on a summary is on page 18 of the report, where we show that we had, as of June 30th, 2025, there were 13 retirees and 4 active members that can potentially receive post-retirement medical in the future. When we do a full valuation, we take the plan provisions, we take the census information, and then we project those promised benefits for each individual. So for a retiree, we assume that they continue, we project what is their cost going to be in the future. We make assumptions on those costs. So, what is the current cost for them? What are we expecting them to grow at on medical healthcare trend rates, for example, are included. And then we also consider that these members may pass away. So we're not having infinite streams of benefits, but for each individual, we say that there's a probability that someone could pass away, and therefore their stream of payments at some point will zero out. For an active person, what we'll do is that they're currently active, but then we'll make projections as to, could they terminate before they're eligible for payments? When will they retire? Because if they retire early at 55, they're going to receive benefits for a longer period than if we assume that they retire at age 60. So we have demographic assumptions as to termination of employment, retirement, mortality for active employees, as well as the economic of when will someone, what is the healthcare cost in those projected years. So then when we take those projected payments for each individual, then we discount them using a discount rate in order to come up with the district's liability in accordance with GASB 75. So our assumptions, let me just confirm this, are summarized on pages 15 and, let me make sure pages 15 and 16. And the one thing that I would add with regard to the assumptions is that we usually use standard actual best practice, industry standards that we feel is appropriate for the district. Let me just stop there and see if there's any questions as to what I've said, or if there's any specific questions.
Any questions?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was watching the board to see if they had any questions, and I'm not sure what view you have of the room. So
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I see just a few individuals in the room. So thank you.
Anybody online that has any questions?
We can't answer.
Oh, that's fine. Cool.
Was that it?
All right, no questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and proceed. The in regards to the valuation assumptions, I would add that the district has adopted an irrevocable trust, which means that they hold assets, that you hold assets to support your liability. You have those invested in the CalPERS trust, a certain CalPERS trust that is for sole purposes of offering benefits under this plan. And because of that, we are able to discount liabilities using the long-term expected return on assets. You are invested in the most conservative of the three types that CalPERS has, and what our firm uses for that particular portfolio is a discount rate or a long-term expected return of assets of 5.25%. If you did not have a irrevocable trust, or for agencies that don't, we have to use the municipal bond rates that are in effect at the valuation date. Just for your information, as of June 30th, 2025, the municipal bond rate that we use would have been 5.2%, which would have produced a larger liability. Although that's not a big difference from the 5.25%, the municipal bond rates are very volatile. A few years back, they were at 1.92%. And as of today, where it was 5.25 a year ago, now it's at 4.75, which would further increase your liability. So there is a benefit to having your plans invested. And more importantly, your plan is in a great financial position because you've accumulated assets that are very comparable to the liabilities. And I'll just turn to that on page 6 of the full valuation report. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, on page 6, we do show the liability as of June 30th, 2025. I'm referring to the total OPEB liability, which was $1.82 million. Again, this is as of June 30th, 2025, and that compares to assets of $1.36 million for just a net liability of $461,000. Based on my experience, this is a really well-funded plan compared to other agencies and governmental plans in California. Page 7 of the report provides additional data information related to your liability. And what we're showing there is a sensitivity analysis. Is what would your liability increase to if the discount rate was higher or if it was lower. The higher the discount rate, the lower the liability. But then on the flip side, we also show the sensitivity to healthcare trend rates. If the healthcare trend rates increase by 1% or decrease by 1%, and in this case, if they increase by 1%, then the liabilities would be higher. So page 7 meets another of GASB 75's requirement is to provide a sensitivity analysis. And then finally, what we do is on pages 10 through 12, we provide a lot of information, but it's mainly components of your accounting expense. This isn't necessarily cash expense, but we'll talk about that in a second, but it's an accounting expense. And one of the key components in the accounting expense is that every time there's a deviation to your liabilities, whether it's because your population changed different than the assumptions, or if we have to change the assumptions for a particular reason, or if your assets, any gains and losses in assets, each of those components is isolated and amortized in your expense. So kind of the key to pages 10 through 12 is to show what are those deviations in your liability, and then we incorporate those in your expense. If you turn to page 10, down at the bottom, we show the pay-as-you-go payments, and all that is what we expect the payments to the retirees to be during the upcoming year, which we're looking at about $75,000 is the payout to retirees on an annual basis. Again, that would be for the 13 retirees as of June 30th, 2025. As I mentioned, that's kind of a summary of the full valuation report. We also provided you the supplemental schedules, which is formatted to align with the requirements of your financial disclosure statements. And our thought is that you would take the information in the in our supplemental reports and kind of fit those into your financial statements, or it allows your auditors or anyone to easily identify what needs to go in and how we recommend that you put them in. So I think that's kind of the key highlights. Obviously, I'm here to answer any of the specific questions. There's a lot of technical stuff we could get into, so I can get into as much as deep as you want, or as brief as you'd like me to.
Questions?
Let me just go backwards a little bit on for this and how these came about, how this accounting standard reporting requirements came about. As the market for employees changed and ebbed and flowed over the years, in order for public agencies like ourselves to be able to attract and retain employees in competition with private businesses and within the employment market, different benefits were provided. Public agencies that could do so invested in post-retirement benefits for employees, and that historically there was a long period of time that was increasing, and there was, although there was everybody knew there was a cost associated with it, there were a couple of public entities that got into a little bit of trouble because the true cost of providing that benefit, with the increasing medical costs and and numbers of employees and everything, it wasn't reported on the financials in a way that somebody could look at it and say, hey, there's a problem coming out in the future. And this is going to cause a financial hardship on public agencies. So the standard came about to require that this be reported and this be analyzed to make sure that, when you're looking at your cash flow, that it's not hidden somewhere, and that you're projecting that out into the future to make sure that you've got enough money to be able to pay your obligations. Because once you've offered these post-employment benefits, and we did it for a period of time, that window has closed, like I was talked about in the beginning. Those employees that are within that range that receive that benefit, it's not something that can go away just arbitrarily. So budgetary purposes, it's a commitment throughout their life. Again, like I joined the district after most of us did. So that's not a benefit that is accounted for in the long-term obligation of the cost of my medical or our medical into the future. So that's what's captured here. They have to, as Carlos said, they take into consideration all sorts of factors: who's going to die, who's going to live, how long they're going to live, what the costs are going to be, what the the life expectancy is, and so what Carlos mentioned early on was that we're funded through this trust, meaning that our money goes into a third-party account. It's restricted for that purpose. It's earning interest, and we're doing pretty well. Is that a good summary? Just to
Oh,
kind of-
that's a wonderful summary, Peter. Yes. Very spot on.
This goes until they get it onto Medicare.
Yeah, and then the cost reduces.
Yeah.
But the benefit, the benefit continues until they pass, or their
Okay.
spouse passes if the spouse receives the benefit.
Awesome.
Pretty common.
Yeah.
During that period of time that they were up.
Good. Yeah.
So again, that's not for, at this point, it's not being for new employees. That's pretty much been the trend within the industry to transition away from that. Yeah. Go backwards a little bit. I just want to make sure we have board members that have only seen this a couple of times, Carlos, and it's, it's a complex thing. But I think the board really, what they're looking for is to make sure that we're headed in the right direction and that we don't have some unforeseen expense that we're not dealing with, and that is part of our financial statements. And
No, absolutely, great to hear that you're constantly monitoring and because I know I work with other agencies that this is kind of just a compliance issue, and then they ask really tough questions where when they get into into some difficult situations. But I really enjoy working with the district because you're really on top of things.
Thank you so much for coming today and presenting this and putting me through this each year. So I appreciate all your help.
Oh, I'm glad it was helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you have a great day.
You
Good
too. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
we're gonna have Mr. Swan take a look at this by video. This is usually his.
Yeah.
His
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
He loves these numbers, but I mean, he was also involved, and I know you were gone too when we joined the Caltrust investment, and it's done well. We've stayed on top of it. Really appreciate Jen and Michelle.
Yeah.
Keeping that fresh in our minds.
Okay, so we'll move on to B. And of course, this has no action. That's right. So we'll go to B, which is presentation of fiscal year 2025-2026, third quarter financial statement and view of investment.
Yes. Can't believe it. Well, we're almost at the end of the year, but we're going to backtrack a bit and we're going to go to the third quarter, covers January 1st through March 31st. Starting off with the water fund. At the end of the third quarter, operating revenue is slightly better than budget, while operating expenses are slightly under budget.
Pedro.
Not what I paid. This is
I have this budget memo and I kind of just make the presentation to flow with the report. So you don't have, feel free, I want you to read the report, but so you can follow it along.
It's a 21-page report. It starts with June 3rd, 2026 at the top.
It's like
It's
this.
page 41 in the packet.
Oh, okay.
Page one.
Oh,
So, this one. Right.
I'll wait for it.
Presentation, like Michelle said, the presentation summarizes the pages starting at 41.
Got it.
I basically do everything that's in the 14-page document or document by spreadsheet.
awesome.
Okay, going through continuing with the water operating revenue. As you can see, fixed rates right in line with previous months. We're right on target. Variable rates reflect winter months activity, so there's a decrease here. And then other operating revenues, 35,187, and we receive these funds from water sales and charges, transfer fees, and late fees. Other non-operating revenue. So for the year of, up through March 31st, we've received $4.2 million. In the third quarter, you received $58,060 from the FEMA winter storm damage grant, $498,000 for the CDBG Groveland Big Oak Flat Water Distribution Project. Just under $733,000 for the Drought Resiliency Project. And Mountain Tunnel Construction paid us a reimbursement for labor charges for the removal of a pump. And then the water fund earned $3,580 in interest. Going on to expenses. So as mentioned earlier, we're slightly under budget at the end of the third quarter. Salaries were $376,833, a little bit higher. Prior quarters, we had staff on leave, and then we also had retirements. We did some cash outs there of some hours. Benefits, $146,426. The cost of water is slightly lower than prior months, and that was due to the tunnel shutdown period. Utilities are slightly lower this quarter at $28,506. That's for water, sewer, electricity, cleaning, edge. Other operating expenses, $258,137. That's for repairs and maintenance, membership, subscriptions, supplies, janitorial, and lease payments of $997. We did our monthly pension unfunded liability of $42,667. So we pay that monthly now.
Pension liability is different than the post-employment benefits. So we've got two different components. We got the post-employment benefits that go into the trust, which are for the medical health insurance for the retirees that are eligible, and the existing employees are eligible rates. Then we have the retirement itself, which is the PERS retirement, which has its own liability where PERS looks into the future. They do their own evaluation and look into the future of is the amount the employee is putting in, the amount the district putting in, is that enough to fund the benefits in the future? And there's always, at least in recent years, been deficit that has to be so that
It's based on investment return. Like, so we go into a pool. So when that investment is not with interest rates and everything going down, the UAL will go up. So it's not just specific to the district. We're part of like a larger pool, and in that larger pool, so it's not. Anyway, so it's not specific to us. We're affected by the entire pool in the state of California.
And as we get reports from CalPERS, I usually try to include those with our quarterly meetings. So try to keep you guys updated on that too. It's often it's where. Okay, going on into capital expenditures. Just going to go to the next page. This quarter, capital expenses were $2.4 million. There was a lot of activity going on, and I'm sorry, this is kind of small. We had work on the downtown Groveland Big Oak Flat Water System Rehab Project. Majority of the work was with the Groveland Drought Resiliency Project, $2.2 million. We are working on the VFD project, booster pump repair, that was, we had Don Pedro pump come in for a repair of booster pump and the motor. And then there was a hydrant repair project on Tannehill Drive.
Was that paid for by insurance?
Submitted, what's the word? Submitted, so we're hoping to get reimbursed for that.
Found out the individual did not have insurance, but there has been a claim filed with the DA to get restitution of it. So it might be in the form of $50 a month forever, but. So
The restitution will constantly follow him.
Who's the cost?
We paid 24,900 to Neerich and Sons hydrant repair.
Replacing. Like this.
Yeah, we had this is one of two hydrants that were hit, both by people that don't have insurance.
Very nice.
What's the lot? Yeah, hydrants, the cost of hydrants have quadrupled the last 5 to 8 years. Quadruple for the materials and installation, obviously, but materials primarily.
there's a little bit more on those because figured insurance was going to pay for these things too. So we went valve all the way to the hydrant. So instead of putting a hydrant on a cold valve, we did the whole thing. So
Right. Sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I kept it as a capital expenditure. Because I don't know when we're gonna get reimbursed rather than just expense reimbursement.
Guess we don't have uninsured motorists.
we don't have all of our hydrants insured actually.
Yeah, we don't insure hydrants because there's so many of them. It would be
Right.
almost cost for what you would be paying. I mean,
Yeah.
so we looked into it. So we have over what,
600 hydrants.
600 hydrants. Yeah,
Be a lot of money, probably.
it would increase insurance significantly.
One individual though he actually got charged with a hit and run because he went to Utah. And so I thought he was going to pay because he was getting like
He is supposed to pay, but it's not through insurance because so it's also like a restitution type of issue.
That's the Tannehill guy.
Sorry?
Went on Tannehill.
that one was on Grizzly Surf. He drove around. He was pissed because they were doing traffic control for the PG&E project. And he throwing up his hands, and I guess he went and made that corner really fast, and he drove over the hydrant, looked, car full of kids, took off.
Oh.
Anyways, we did a little research and kind of told him what it was. The guys took a picture that were doing traffic control, so we were able to work. Thinking they were able to pull plate. Once you're there.
Down his business.
It just amazes me anymore that the wrongdoers stuff with cameras and phones. Of course, they're probably not that.
Neighbor had me hit on and he didn't have insurance. Luckily I had motorist.
I just have to carry it now.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
I'm also like a rule follower.
I mean, I got
Insurance.
There's no,
She was in.
yeah, I never,
Go back one side.
Yeah.
Just to highlight, the downtown Groveland Big Oak Flat, rehab project is, the first two projects are complete now. So when we get to the fourth quarter, we'll be talking about that. All of the sub projects under that drought project are completed. So, and we've now been reimbursed. So you'll see that money in the next quarter, which was significant. It's changed our picture moving forward. The VFD project, that's a variable frequency drive. That's an energy efficiency and operational improvement, significant. So that controls pumps, and that's where we were successful. Steve submitted an application to the only Public Power Authority for an energy efficiency grant, and that's one where we awarded the $100,000. This is the first expense of it. The actual total expense will exceed that 100,000.
187 is what was budgeted
So, but
in the project.
over half of it being reimbursed grant. Just wanted to highlight some of those things that we're constantly chasing grant money. And they're doing a good job at getting it. And the booster pump, was that the?
That one was an unexpected repair for the Big Creek pump. So luckily it was able to be repaired. That's the repair price. Buy a new one, I wouldn't imagine what it would cost, right?
So
Triple that.
a lot of that is funded out of grants and reimbursements. Doing a solid job there, keeping it out of the ratepayer's pocket and minimizing the expense. Okay,
Yes.
slowed you down enough.
No, you're good. This is. Okay, any questions on the water fund? Moving along to the sewer fund. Operating revenue was right on target at 75% and then operating expenses is slightly under budget at 64%. So as mentioned before, fixed rates right on target, variable rates, just like water, it has winter usage. And then we received $9,002 from late penalty fees and charges.
That's only commercial that are receiving. Oh, there was some carryover of the variable.
There was some carryover in the first quarter, variable charges, but going through now it's just the commercial properties that have variable rates. On operating revenue, the end of the quarter we have 107. Towards the end of the quarter we had 107,431. In quarter three, received 58,000 FEMA winter storms grants, and then 2,864 in earned interest. Going into expenses, this really mimics the water fund. Salary is up just a little bit this quarter. Same with benefits. Utilities were 68,934. Other operating expenses were 104,416. Lease payments 676 for our mail and copy machines. And then the sewer funds portion of the pension unfunded liability is 28,952. There was one capital expenditure this quarter, and that was for the collection system I&I study. This one is being paid in progress payments. So this 41,000 second progress payment paid to RH Gordon and Company for the target basin I&I assessment.
That we received a report from them, the companies that did the monitoring. Came in and installed sensors, flow sensors, in target areas within the sewer collection system. Basically, eyes in the sewer collection system that watch the flow. And then they map that with the rain. But when we got a little bits of rain that we did, we were able to monitor flow changes were directly related to the rain, because we historically, and most entities do have large amount of I&I or inflow and infiltration. Water comes into the sewer collection system. It then has to be collected, pumped to the treatment plant, and treated just like comes out of your toilet. So during really wet months, we can have the majority of the inflow into the system that we're treating that is just stormwater. And the goal of this study is to identify the areas where that's occurring and then be able to evaluate exactly where it's coming from and get really inexpensive remedies in place to be able to reduce that because it reduces your entire cost. Reduces the need to have to build more storage for wastewater, bigger mains, bigger pumps, less work on the pumps, less chemicals, less time. So it's a really good investment to identify where that's coming from and stop it from coming in. It's really, and they did a great job. We've got some really good results from that. We further evaluate that over the years. We'll have a specific set of improvements that we'll propose once we get a little bit further along in that under control.
Yeah. See what age of 15.
Yeah, you'd be amazed. You know, I mean, it comes in around, saturates the ground around the manhole and it comes through the joints in the manhole into the manhole, you know, groundwater pressure. It comes into the lid of manholes. It says water sheeting over the top of the metal lid. It comes in around it at, 10, 15 gallons a minute sometimes for each manhole. Anywhere where there might be a problem with a pipe or a connection, a lateral or whatever. But what happens is the trench gets saturated because it's disturbed soil, even though it was in the 70s or 60s. It fills that trench up and that saturation moves down. And anytime there's an opening for it to go into, it goes in. But really, it's the only way that you can see inside the system and monitor, but it's the technology's come so far, it's great.
The water is an amazing thing. It gets into every little space, you know.
Yeah.
Questions on sewer? Moving on to the fire fund. Operating revenue were about 64%. And operating expenses are under budget at 43%. Just know that this is normal, has to do with the time of receiving our revenue, which is property taxes, and then also receiving the mostly the Schedule A invoices. So during the third quarter, we received the first batch of property tax revenue. So we received $629,099. In quarter four, we did receive the second half as well. So other operating revenue was $21,000 or $21,849. The majority of this is assistance by hire, and this is from August of last year. So it was a little delay in receiving these funding. And we received 108 employee housing rental aid. On operating revenue, by the end of the quarter, we've received $76,325. And during the third quarter, we received $56,842. And this is Office of Traffic Safety. This is a grant reimbursement for the purchase of extrication tools. So we purchased the tools prior quarters and then submitted the paperwork and funding payment. They also received $6,414 in earned interest fund. Operating expenses. Salaries and benefits are $28,241. During the third quarter, you received the quarter two Schedule A contract. So that was $296,275. Utilities were $7,331. And this is going to be split with Tuolumne County per the firehouse cost share agreement. These payments were $89. And other operating expenses were $47,993. That was the grant purchases, general maintenance, subscriptions, fuel. The fire funds portion of the pension unfunded liability is $3,810. There were no capital expenditures during this quarter. This is on the fire fund. Right along. For funds, operating revenue 59%. And so slightly under budget, and then operating expenses are 68%. The park also received their portion of property taxes, which was $54,700. And then also $1,491 of other operating revenue, and that's from dog park permits and fees.
Michelle,
Yes.
the projects that are, I mean, like the park fund were under budget.
At the end of the third
So,
quarter.
right, so beginning of the new budget, what happens with that money that's still sitting?
It stays in fund balance and it rolls forward to the previous year. But just when we're going to talk about it, the parks fund, revenue and expenses, there's not much fund balance. So we're watching every expenditure, every revenue opportunity here.
Yeah.
Oh no, anything that's unspent just rolls forward for every single fund. And by the end of the year, I mean, we're going to be going into summer months with watering and the utilities are going to go up. So at third quarter, we're running under budget, but we're still in the fiscal year and there's still expenses coming in. So. Okay, non-operating revenue. So far we've received $205,045. And this quarter, we received a reimbursement for the ATP grant for the Hetch Hetchy Railroad Trails project. That was $40,550. We also, which I'm very happy to report, $40,000 retention payment for the Caltrans, the Clean California grant, the Groveland Asset Rehabilitation and Beautification Project. That was months and months in the making, and lots of emails and requests, and so we got the funds in hand. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah. We have received $450 Movies in the Park donations. Very generous. $31 in interest. Going into expenses, salaries and benefits are $17,366. Utilities, much lower this quarter, $7,642. And this is due to less water usage during the winter months. You don't water the grounds. $18 for lease payments. Other operating expenses are $7,540, and that's janitorial, repairs and maintenance, Movies in the Park expenses. And $762 is for the pension unfunded liability. One project, capital expenditures, $27,395 went towards Provost and Pritchard Consultants for the Hetch Hetchy Railroad Trails Project, EAED phase. It's progress build.
Full report on that coming up. The trail project and the status and where we are going forward and everything else. It's been a lot of effort and delays on the part of getting approvals from Caltrans to be able to move on with the next phase of the work, which is designing the trail, because you're slated to build in 2027, 2028. And we're still on track to do that, but trying to get the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, approval from Caltrans. We have to get that first. That's the PA and ED is the planning approvals and environmental documents, the PA and ED. And the environmental documents have been done for a long time. We've had to have continuously do additional studies and reports to meet the Caltrans NEPA requirements. Submitted to them, and it'll take them 4 to 6 months to review it. Then they come back with a bunch of more things to do. We do that, then it takes them months to review it. And so we're having to ask for extensions on the funding and everything else. But anyway, this is where we are today. We've spent all of the money that we have in the EA and ED phase, which was California Transportation Commission gives you the money of the total 5 million or whatever it was in chunks. Next phase is the plans, specifications, and estimates. You get us signed, and that's waiting to get. We hope to get it in this calendar year. At this point, we can only receive another 25,000 of state money, which we hope to get allocated in June. But that doesn't get us very far because we've got to do the property acquisition from the city and county of San Francisco. Got to do the design. So we're just working like crazy to get through the big pulling teeth. Yeah, you got to feel for our consultants. You know, I mean, they had their proposal and their cost estimate and everything else back 2 years ago now, and their costs are going up, but they can't exceed their budget because that's all that's allocated. They're doing a good job of sticking in there to keep it moving, but it's been a lot of work. We meet every other week and try to keep things on track. We're working with the city and county of San Francisco, Caltrans, surveyors, environmental consultants, and those are the things that make public agency projects expensive and take time. We're getting there.
I'm going to point my head in the other rooms, like trying to catch the guys that are coming to vote stuff. I have to point. Stay looking there out there, I check. On their way. Out here too. So, just gonna.
Any questions on the park fund? Going into the quarterly treasury report. Interest rates are hovering mainly around 3.6%. LEAF is a little bit higher at 9.8%. Year to date, so this is only 3 months activity because it goes from January through December. So this quarter would have been the first quarter. It's $13,018.89. And funds in the bank is $2.4 million a day.
So, and those are one of those requirements that came primarily out of the city of Bell in Southern California, where they went bankrupt and their financial statements didn't really look like they were going to go bankrupt, but they also made some really bad investments. And because the investments and the rate of return was not properly disclosed, the elected officials didn't really have much of a clue that they were going that direction. So this is what the state requires now. I have to certify that we've got 6 months of money to operate. So that's why my signature's nicely on the bottom of that. Fine that
Personally liable.
no, but I'm sure my employment is personally. I'm sure my employment is personally liable. But Michelle does such a fantastic job of monitoring things, and looking at our investments and making recommendations on whether we move money around. And it functions very well. We've got a really good handle on this. we've done really well with this over the last couple of years.
And with the water reimbursements back to normal going into the ending the quarter, going into the fourth quarter, we received the reimbursements of million plus. So our water fund is healthier. Okay, I don't know really where to put this. The last board quarterly, Director Swan had asked that we report how much we are spending with Gilbert and Associates. They are our auditor or CPA. So this quarter there was no expenses incurred. I do expect to have some during the fourth quarter. As we're heading into year end, I need to get some reports from her, and we're transitioning to ClearGov financial reporting. So there's just going to be some transition still going on this year. So there will be expenses. That is
Just
Very much.
helpful. Management.
Yes.
I think I wish we could get more people that were here to ask questions and be able to carry this message out to the public. Being extremely responsible with public funds.
Whatever happened with that one home that had the backyard?
You'll have a closed session unless the next meeting. We're proposing we've got a settlement agreement. No, just another thing to work on and wrap up. And anything else?
Nope. Taking a 2-minute break to restroom visits and
Is that all right?
Nancy to
Yeah.
wrap up the
Break for
5 minutes.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We are back.
We're resuming at 07.
Streaming at 10:07. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put on C, public put in consideration of Clemere. Yeah. Come on, it's got preliminary draft budget for the period July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027, and established budget public hearing for June 17th, 2026. Consider adoption of the final.
Yes. You. Okay, final presentation of the day.
Yeah.
So as mentioned, we're going over the 26-27 preliminary budget. Just to quickly go over our mission. Our mission is to provide environmentally sound, economic, compliant services that meet our customers' needs for water and wastewater treatment, fire protection, and park facilities in the unincorporated township of Groveland, California. Reflect. So this budget is based on board direction and goals, which is to support an excellent, efficient, and qualified staff, adopt/update solid policies and ordinances, support facilities and operations to stabilize long-term costs by planning for the future and reduce the rate of cost increase, support excellent customer service, customer relations, and outreach, ensure the financial stability of the district by planning long-term versus crisis, and provide the structure, process, and staffing for competent, transparent, and accountable governance and administration of all district services.
Nice slide.
Thank you. I picked all the pictures. Okay. So to review the timeline, today we're June 3rd. We're going to present the preliminary budget. This is looking for review and comments. I will then take all your review and comments back, make any adjustments, and present the final budget on the June 17th board meeting at the public hearing. And then approximately around February 10th, that is the board meeting date, that would be presenting our mid-year budget adjustments. So as you know from prior budgets and even just going over the last quarterly, there are a lot of items that continue for each fund. So I don't want to, on every time we get to a fund, go over it. I'm just going to do our assumptions here, save you a little bit of time, and just know that it covers. So proposed personnel changes, the cost of living increase. The current MOU states that the district's salary schedule will be adjusted July 1 of each year by the Consumer Price Index Western region. And that adjustment as of March is 3.1%. And the current board approved staffing consists of 26 positions. We're looking at reducing staffing by half a position, and that was with the departure of the part-time chief plant operator. So on. The other general assumptions across all funds. So as a reminder, administrative expenses for staffing, office operations, and board of directors activities is just distributed among the district services based on customer count and estimated administrative effort. So currently 50%, 56% goes to water, 38% to sewer, 5% to fire, and 1%. So in this budget, projecting health insurance to increase by 11%. Health insurance is calendar year, not fiscal year. So we're expecting that to be January 1st through, so that'll be 6 months. The CalPERS unfunded liability increased by 9.75%. So that's a difference this year, increase of 30,376. Salaries and benefits are projected to increase as staffing levels are going to return to normal operating conditions following prior vacancies and extended leaves. And then going into this fiscal year, there's 2 employees who meet longevity milestones and will begin receiving incentive pay. So you'll see miscellaneous pay increase this year. And then the employee housing that was purchased in fiscal year 25 is currently being utilized, and rental income is being considered, and we use the rates based on the housing and urban development. We're expecting a small decrease in lease expenses. We received a new office copy machine, and that came with a lower lease amount. Utilities are expected to increase fuel costs, electricity, and then also taking into account the water and sewer increases, GCSD. Workers' compensation decreased by 10.9%. However, property and liability insurance increased 32.5%.
Ouch.
Yes.
And Bob's not here.
Bob's not here, what?
He's not here to tell us why.
That's what-
So that's your paid for it.
So
Oh, that's a lot.
when we get into each fund, I'm not going to repeat these lines. Just
Yeah.
Or what they are.
okay. Hold on. I'm moving too fast. Sorry. Let's go on. Okay. Starting off in the enterprise funds, water and sewer. So as a reminder to the public, as a self-supporting operation, district utilizes enterprise funds to manage its water and sewer services. Enterprise funds are used to account for government activities that operate similarly to private businesses. Fees and service charges are the primary source of revenue. So this approach ensures that the full cost of providing water and sewer services, including operations, maintenance, and capital improvements, is covered by user fees rather than general tax revenues. So going into the water fund, the district is projecting $5,096,444 of revenue. with budgeted expenditures to be $5,450,046. So with expenditures exceeding revenues, 354,000 will be drawn from the fund balance to balance this budget. And before I kind of continue with water and sewer, since this was published and today's meeting, I need to do a recalculation of debt service revenues. So that is going to increase revenues and that adjustment on June 17th. So that will be included. I used the wrong calculation, so I need to
It's safe to say that balance, instead of the 354 coming from fund balance, that
it's going to increase revenues by 130. This is estimated, okay? Just looking at the water rate study, those figures, it would increase revenue by 130,663, and then reducing fund balance usage down to 223.39.
354,002.
We did our rate study. Still projected off fund balance.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Next year.
For the first 2 years, right? Yeah, okay.
So, and what doing this slide is goes through, if you want to follow through in your budget, I'm just going to highlight the areas in each fund. So starting with revenue, there's going to be a slight decrease in miscellaneous revenues due to the variable nature of these sources. And these include participation fees, meter tests, transfer fees. We are including the second year rate increase of 26% and expected to bring in additional revenue of 904,093. Non-operating revenue has decreased significantly compared to prior years. This is on page 20 of the budget book. I'm kind of going through yours. It'll have a number at the bottom. I don't know what number is in the packet.
Yeah. That's page 91.
Okay, so non-operating revenue is decreased significantly from prior years. And that's due to the completion of several grant-funded projects. Going into expenditures, the cost of water reflects a slight increase as the Hetch Hetchy Tunnel Improvements Project has been completed. And now water is going to be purchased from the SFPUC during those months that we are normally closed. We don't buy from them. Capital expenditures are going to total 904,986. It includes 2 grant-funded projects that are still in progress with funds carrying over from the prior budget year, as well as one additional item, and we're going to talk about capital when we get through each fund. And then bond and loan interest has decreased due to a portion of a bond being paid during the prior fiscal year. And those are the major highlights for the water fund. Do you have any specific questions? The water
Guys start be wrapping up some of the projects. It gives us a more focused picture on the operating expense. And actually what our ongoing capital expenses are, because the last 4 years we've been fluctuating numbers based on grant reimbursements. We're starting to normalize.
Okay, moving into the sewer fund. So again, these figures are to change due to the recalculation of the debt service revenues. So if we just use this, 4,136,000, excuse me, let's start. The district is projecting 3,637,593 in revenue. The budgeted expenditures projected at that was brought 499,267 from fund balance. However, my adjustment based on the sewer
116.
again.
The 16.
So known as 50.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I'm on 56 on this one. Yeah, 50. So anyways, I'm gonna probably be making an adjustment of 253,464 to revenue. That would bring revenues up to 3.8 million. And then it would reduce the usage of fund balance down to 245,000. So make that adjustment. Getting into the figures, page 54. There's going to be a slight increase in miscellaneous revenues. Due to the variable nature of these revenues, I base this off prior year's trends. This budget includes the second rate increase of 15% and is projected to bring in additional fixed rate revenue of 398,802. Variable rate revenue is going to decrease due to the change in rate structure, no longer charging based on usage, rather charging a fixed rate. Customers. And then non-operating revenue includes grant reimbursements for the FEMA Winter Storms project and anticipated interest income. It's great. Went into expenses. Expenses are expected to increase. These are the larger increases in this line item have to do with biosolids disposal, collection system, and camera inspections, engineering, pump repairs, and maintenance, as well as just anticipated vendor cost increases. And capital outlay, we're going to continue with the FEMA Winter Storms project. And then there's going to be additional capital projects. And then slight decrease in the debt service expenses. The Series A bond will be paid off this year, so we have half payments as a debt.
Series A bonds started back in, I believe, 2005, 2006. They've been refinanced twice and are ending this year.
So going into the year, fund balance 2,054,879. After my adjustments, that will end the year projected and the fiscal 27 at $1,809,076.
That bond will come off of those.
That's what I'm looking at recalculating. So
In the rate study, the money that we're collecting on the bond ends, but if we're funding a new loan, it's basically going to take place in order to be able to continue to make capital improvements, because the money from the rates is not coming in fast enough to do the number of projects that we've got that have to be funded out of the budget. We'd intended to take on debt toward the end of this fiscal year and make the first payment next year. So even though the bond comes off, that annual payment is reinvested in another long-term I don't want to call it bond because I'm not gonna really do it that way. But anyway, it may be reworded. We'll have to talk specifically about that to the budget and the revised numbers here. The rates were never intended to go down. It's just that amount of money that's on the bill is now going to be reinvested in payments for the next 20 years. Like they're about to pay it off. Now we're going to get another loan, pay it off every time because we just don't have the customer base and the cash flow to be able to do the capital improvements that are needed each year. And as long as we can get good interest rates, that's what we're going to have to do. Ultimately, if our rates were high enough and our cash flow was good enough, we could save the interest by self-funding. But with the rate study, the way that we did it, and that we had to reduce the amount that we were charging, just because it was, if you remember when we first proposed it, it was a much higher rate increase. It forced us into having to get a loan for that money versus having money in the budget each year to do the kind of projects. So, and I don't know that we're going to have the customer base in the foreseeable future to be able to self-fund these things. Meaning that we'll have enough cash in the bank to be able to do $1 million a year in capital placements.
So we're gonna have a discussion, get back. Any questions on the sewer fund? There's really no major changes this year. Budget. Okay, going into governmental funds, Iron Park. So the district's fire department and park services, including Mary Laveroni Park, dog park, baseball field, skate park, and disc golf course, are funded as toll services, primarily through ad valorem taxes. So of the property tax rate revenue received, 92% is allocated to the fire department, 8% to park services. Any additional funding is generated through rental income, through fees, grants, and donations. Going into the fire fund, the district is projecting $1,600,000. Page 91 or budget.
Yeah, we got. Another budget.
Okay, so that's 153 in the packet.
We're already there.
Okay, so the district 1.6 million in revenue with projected expenditures of for 2.2 million. So fire fund is insufficient operating revenue.
Okay.
Expenses. So we have to use fund balance of 613,642 to close the gap in the balanced budget.
It's coming out.
Fund balance. So beginning this year, we're estimating fund balance to be 844,586. Using fund balance 613, we're projecting ending the fiscal year of 27 with 230,000. And that is if everything goes to no major expenses. I mean, it's cutting it tight.
And that doesn't include a replacement, equipment replacement schedule. That's just maintaining a 17-year-old engine and the reserve engine and maintaining the facilities. And then also, obviously, we do get a small amount of grant money to offset a portion of the cost of some of the equipment. small equipment purchases that we had. Not for the engine, not fire station, or major expenses like that.
So going over revenue, I'm going to increase miscellaneous revenues a little bit. And this is due to the new structure of the firehouse cost share agreement, now charging rent on top of the utilities 50 split. So that's being recognized here in this budget. And then non-operating revenues, that is always just very full. I have lowered it quite a bit. The prior year budget included some grant reimbursement. At this time, I don't know of any grant opportunities, so that's not included. And a little bit of assistance by higher funds would also this line item, and at this point, we just don't know. So this is something, those are the type of items that I bring back at mid-year budget once, if any activity has happened. So I just wanted to keep it pretty realistic. And then general property taxes are anticipated to increase by 2%. So modest increases in slow. Moving into expenses, we have included the CAL FIRE Schedule A agreement, 5% contract increase. Capital has decreased from prior years. As of right now, there's no capital planned. There's a little bit of capital outlay share that we'll discuss, but at this point, it's planned. And just a slight decrease in expenditures from prior year. That was because the fire tax measure was a considerable cost this year, and that's not included. Maybe a little carry forward for usage. We talked about lease, OPEB, utilities, salaries, and debt. So there's really not many changes. We've gone through this budget. It matches the engineer's report. Any major going?
Wall job. It's supposed to be done this month. That will come up, I know. Spot.
Yeah, so the West Wall project is budgeted in the fiscal year, this fiscal year. So we're planning on having that completed by the end of the year, so it won't move forward.
Right now, that's what they said they could get it done before the year end.
Should that not happen, we'll roll that forward since those funds have already been budgeted. That was 15,000, I think. And we already have it included as being spent in the 26 projected column there. So,
okay.
please. Okay, any questions on the fire fund? Should the assessment pass? This is going to be after the budget is approved. Would back to the board with adjustments, and at that time, be able to put money into contingencies, use capital, go from there.
Did the county think of?
They took it to the board. When was that? May 3rd, last month. I did listen to the board meeting, and yeah, everyone, I think it was a unanimous vote. Shade the agreement and the partnership.
It was strongly supported. That one supervisor had questions, didn't raise them at the meeting, but this was a little bit wondering because we actually included in the agreement, like the same agreement that our board approved, a schedule, a replacement schedule for things like air conditioning and the compressors and different things that were used by agencies, and questioned the frequency of replacement. Like, is a roll-up door really only a 10-year asset? I mean, when you look, we did the research to determine the number of times, the number of responses, and the number of times that door rolls up. And there's actually a standard in in the industry of the number of roll-ups that you can expect, because you don't want that door to not roll up, right, John? When you hit the button,
Be good.
you don't want to have to go through it. Anyway, so they were supportive, and that's a little over $4,000 per quarter.
Yeah.
And that basically what that does is it allows us to be able to accumulate funds. Right now, with the budget in the deficit that it is, it doesn't really accumulate. But if we had the assessment in place, we'd be able to establish a replacement reserve with a portion of the money that they're paying toward those assets that we plan on placing every year.
Any questions on the fire fund? So the district is projecting $560,000 of revenue with budgeted expenditures of over 610,000. To this difference, we are looking at reducing the fund balance by $50,000 to balance the budget. This is another fund where revenue funds are very low. Working through this budget, I worked with Louie, I worked with Pete and Jen to really try to find some cost savings here, because we need to balance the budget. So go to this next slide. Beginning this year, we went into the year in a negative status, $933. We're looking to end, and this is if we receive chamber funds, $55,971. Going through this original budget, we're basically over budget. Louie and I kind of sat down together to figure out where we can find some savings. Mostly that's going to be hit was salaries and then utilities. And that would just leave us with $5,700 end of this fiscal year 27. So we're looking, I'm going to go through it and then we'll look at some of the savings we found. So miscellaneous revenues, those are use fees, dog park permits, fees in the park, concession sales, and then if there's any expense reimbursements. I decreased this just a little bit. We're going to be showing less movies this season. Movies on park down 2 movies. There wasn't much turnout. $100 will decrease. Non-operating revenue is generated from cell tower rental income. And I'm also have included in here $365,000 for the active transportation from grant funds. That is what we had discussed in the last presentation for the PS&E and the ROW phases of the Hetchy Road Trails project. And then also in here is interest earned. So slight decrease. And then also projected is general property tax revenue, 2% increase. Going into expenses, I'm including the Hetchy Railroad Trails project. Then expenses for just general expenses are expected to increase due to increased supplies. The cost of movie licensing has gone up quite a bit. Janitorial services has a increased inflation contract by 3%. So just kind of including all those in. And then utilities. This is where we are thinking of trying to save some money. Looking at reduced watering and irrigation activities to lower the water bills.
Put solar.
No, that would help a little bit with electricity. Electricity isn't super high. It really just covers the bathrooms, the stage. Yeah, it's mostly water usage from watering the ballpark, watering the park. Collecting fees, yeah, but it hasn't been used. It hasn't been rented. In it, so there's not.
A lot of ballparks to set.
So we're looking at saving some salaries by also like reducing the number, which is raising the blade on the.
Still kind of what's we,
Yeah.
but we're just gonna try to do some landscape modifications to keep grass a little bit fast during hot summers, not keeping it so short. See if we can change some water techniques and that kind of stuff. But the other option is just to let them go. But we put a lot of effort and time into that. So we're going to just try to keep it what we can, a minimal. And then Market Town, same thing. We're going to try some different watering techniques. But it was pretty much the addition of the baseball field, which really put that bill over the top.
There's a lot to keep the grass longer, weeds out.
It protects the roots a little bit more. You
Yeah.
know, we tried deep watering cycles, maybe the roots will go deeper. You know, park over here we'll have to do a series of it because the ground's hard on a slope, so it's we'll do like reduced time, like 7 minutes, like 6 times a night instead of 20 minutes at a time. Then maybe we won't have to do it every other day, but we're just gonna have to just be. That's all.
So we'll be watching this fund very closely, recorder, to kind of see where we're at. We don't want it to the negative. You have to have a balanced budget. Any questions on? Okay. So going into capital expenditures. So each fiscal year, the district budgets for the replacement of vehicles and equipment based on a criteria, including maintenance history and quality of the item and its need and plans for the year, safety, and liability. District also identifies the necessary infrastructure replacements and improvements based on history, life expectancy, changes in state regulations to extend the life of existing facilities and to improve facilities to increase efficiency, safety, and stabilize or reduce long-term costs. So, capital expenditures, we're looking at 1.4 million. Water fund would have 859,000, sewer fund 611,000, fire fund $375, and then park fund $75. I have every CIP has its own page. I thought I would just kind of put it up here on the board and we can kind of go through it with Louie just to kind of explain our. Thank you. So the 2G turbine VFD, this is a carry forward from prior year. Some that we're currently working on. So we have this VFD, and this is also TPPA funding $100,000. So there's 3 of these, and $100,000 of it, once completed, will submit for reimbursement. So partially grant funded. 2G turbine, the Big Creek booster VFD, 29,000. Variable.
It says 215.
And the Big Creek booster VFD number 2. So carried over from prior years, those first 3. I have a placeholder in here for capital improvement plans, and I put WIP, work in progress. While working through the water rate study, we identified projects that would be completed with the increase in revenue. At this moment in time, we are still working on identifying those projects, figuring out additional financing options, engineering. So we have this as a placeholder, and we will work on this listing it's gonna be back to the.
So the total amount of funds that we have to work in to prioritize projects, because we had intended to take on a loan and start paying debt service, but we still can't just go out and borrow money for an unknown project at this point, or unknown group of projects. We have to identify what those are to come up with exact numbers. And part of this is because the rates included the entire capital plan, but the rates only covered 20%. If you remember, we ratcheted it back. Rate increases only 20% of the total. But we really have to take out 80% of those projects and focus on the 20% that are important, that are the absolute most important to keep the system up and running. Which makes it hard, because a lot of the projects that we had intended to move forward with are planning type projects. When you compare a planning type project to prioritize for the future, that seems to come first to help you prioritize but we've got a whole bunch of things that have to be addressed immediately for regulatory compliance or for continued reliable operations. So that's the amount of money we have to work with in the budget. The final budget will have a list of what's to be funded within that. We won't have a loan programmed in for the start of the fiscal year. We'll have the project packaged to a loan and loan payment.
FEMA agreement, as mentioned before, that's continuing on and funded. That is for water and sewer. Sewer fund, influent and bypass pump station improvements project, 300,000 is being budgeted. Do you have anything to add? Explain it.
These are the known projects within that amount of money.
Yeah, no, this is just our current wet well, our influent wet well, we call it, is where the water comes into the plant. There's a series of 3 pumps. One pumps into the plant itself, and then we have this one that's called a bypass pump. Above ground, then you got to use the other pump, climb that pump it up to the bypass reservoir number 1. And so we're looking at actually making that to where it's by itself, it'll be a 3rd pump, it'll be in the wet well. So followed by VFD and SCADA. Yep. Make it safety. More safe for the guys to get in there and clean it with it.
Another sewer fund, the STP OSG installation.
Sewer treatment plant on-site chlorine generation. We generate our own chlorine with electricity and salt because of the amount of chlorine that's used. It saves money versus having liquid chlorine trucked in and stored on site and used.
Safer too.
Huh?
Safer as well. Not to have.
Yeah, I think so.
I would say.
Yeah.
Chlorine leak is pretty.
Our current OSG has its share of leaks as well. Guys have been maintaining it as best they can, but when the guys came out, the manufacturer of that was just like, they were pretty amazed it was still working and still around. So the guys did a fantastic job. But we bought the OSG unit last fiscal year, and we're supposed to do it in-house, get it put in there, but trying to get our guys to be able to do this project wasn't going to happen. We just don't have the time. We're too spread. We're too busy on some certain things. And so We've rolled it over and we're gonna add a little bit more to it and have somebody come in and do it for us. This will include a new chlorine tank, well, which is, it's got holes in it, splitting on the seams, and it's past its life.
Fluid secure fuel monitoring system. This is a capital outlay, so it is going to be spread 7,200 spread across all. So it's a new fuel management system.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, do you want to talk about
I
that
can
one?
read it.
Sorry, it's a little small.
Right. To replace our current manual log process that we have. It's time consuming, prone to human errors. Sometimes you can't read the guy's writing for the most part, and getting it turned in, but I can just read the whole thing. Existing system relies on
I'm
handwritten.
reading it.
I'll check.
Oh, I thought you were reading it yourself.
No, I can read it.
Okay.
If you want me to, or
We currently log it on a piece of paper. And the guys get fuel from the tank. Write it down on a piece of paper.
it's an old dial system. You gotta zero it out and you start pumping your gallons, and then you have to take that read with the other read, and then it goes to
And then
Michelle.
we key it into an Excel to figure out our yearly tax return. And then you gotta balance out their writing.
Oh.
It's gonna save a
Anyways.
lot of time.
This is just gonna be, it's kind of a reduced version of what we've put out in the past, which was a kind of a huge project, an additional tank and this whole card system, but everybody will have their own pin, so we'll be able to track vehicles, what where, and it's just gonna make life a lot easier for her and just for us to monitor stuff and, track where our fuel really goes.
That is the presentation. Any questions on any capital? And then the last thing, the fee schedule.
It's page 236.
Senior. Okay, that also has an annual inflator, so we use the CPI Western Region, 3.1%. So we want the fees, really, since our fees are going set. So, any questions? Schedule. So coming back next June 17th, we are going to send a budget. We'll have those adjustments. Any thing to happen. But not many changes.
Would not want your job for anything.
Good to hear.
You miss you with all these numbers. My mind was just like. You do an absolutely great job at it.
Thank you.
What's my budget? Yeah, that's few.
Members, fewer categories.
Lots to read.
The board knows that our regular meeting is canceled and it was pushed to the 17th as a special meeting. So don't show up next Tuesday. Wednesday.
I won't be here either day.
Might be still good. That's about it.
Right, so if there's no other questions, you want to adjourn?
Oh, you're just gonna say if we have to vote on anything.
All this is any direction.
Oh,
You gotta do something to like set. Oh wait, yeah, recommended action. Think this to me.
No momentum.
I move to direct staff to prepare.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I mean, I'm sorry. It was motion, Janice made the motion, seconded.
Nancy made the.
Nancy, yeah, I'm sorry. Nancy made the motion and it was seconded by Janice. All in favor?
Aye. Nancy was actually out.
No one in the audience to make public comment.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So do I need to?
You know, I do better if there's a bunch of people.
I know. No, it's
And then John, do you want to adjourn at 10:54?
Yes, thank you.